One of the biggest misconceptions that I see online entrepreneurs make is that we think in our heads that you have to become a big deal, some top earner, and then you'll get a bunch of press. But it's actually the other way around. When you seek out some press and some PR, you can get featured in a publication or a magazine or something like that before you become a big deal. And it helps you to become that top earner, right? So it's absolutely the opposite of what most people think. And so today, Coda and I will be talking with James Patrick about how to create some amazing press for your business and some PR. So let's jump in. Let's do this, Coda. Okay. Welcome to the Impactful Entrepreneur Show with Adrienne Hill, a place for online business industry expertise and thought leadership, where you can build the skills, structure, and systems you need to thrive in business and have a lasting impact in your industry. Let's do this. I'm super excited about this one. I am here with James Patrick. He is an award-winning photographer, best-selling author, business coach, podcast host, and speaker based in Phoenix, Arizona. He's the founder of FITposium, an annual conference for fitness professionals, as well as the founder of Icon Refined, a media network celebrating the modern entrepreneur. James has presented coast to coast in the United States and has been interviewed for numerous TV, magazine, and podcast spots. So we had to have him here. You guys are going to love his topic. His mission is to create art and opportunity for others. Today, he's here to talk to us about how to get published, which is an amazing strategy if you're looking to create more visibility for yourself, more traffic into your business, more people to talk to. So clearly this is a strategy that it's a must-have, and we had to have him. So thank you, James, so much for joining us today.
Adrienne, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to chat with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know the audience is really excited to dig in to how to get published, but before we jump into the good stuff, just in case there's some folks who maybe haven't met you yet, could you tell us just a little bit about your story and how you got to this place, this very interesting niche you've carved out for yourself in the industry?
Absolutely. So my entire career, I've leaned into the power of what I'm just going to call earned media. We can call it getting published, getting featured, but all of it is earning media opportunities. Early in my career, I was a journalist, then slowly evolved into photojournalism and developed really a big passion for visual arts and creating photographs as my primary medium that I wanted to succeed in. But I didn't know any professional photographers out of college. I didn't know really that photography could be a professional job. So I took what I thought was a safe job. So I got into corporate America working in marketing, all the while building this side hustle of being a photographer on the side. Now, in my marketing career, I had this great VP who was very invested in my success in my side hustle, in my photography business. He'd pop his head in a lot and ask me how things were going. And one day he says, do you really want to blow up your photography business? I said, yeah, I do. He said, listen, you need to be seen, you need to be heard, and you need to be read. That's it. That's all he said. And he left my office. But what I gathered from that is we need to have an omnipotent presence in front of our target audience, be seen by them, be heard by them, be read by them, be in front of them. So we are top of mind and we are the first person that they think about when they need the service that we provide. And that's when I leaned back into my background, like I said, in journalism, and realized that earned media was the way I could be seen, I could be heard, and I could be read by my target audience. So I pushed heavy into earned media, shooting for magazines. At the time, I still was writing for magazines, but it was leveraging all this earned media that I was able to achieve as a photographer, which landed me from one magazine cover. Now I've shot more than 600 magazine covers. And from that have built a multiple six-figure business as a photographer. And now I'm teaching others how to do the same within their own careers, whatever it is that they choose to spend their time on. But it all comes down to how to be seen, how to be heard, and how to be read by the right audience.
That is fascinating. Well, there's a couple of things I want to highlight from your story that really jumped out to me that I think the audience is going to love. First things first, you had some sort of knowledge in your background that as you moved forward and you started moving into creating your own business ventures, somehow like it wasn't being tapped into. It didn't click to you that you could tap into that knowledge, right? And only after you tapped into of that little hidden zone of genius that you had that had almost been forgotten. That's when everything changed for you. I can't tell you how often I see that happen for people. It happened to me as well, right? I was also corporate America. I was a project manager. I was really good at thinking in a systematized way. I was not leveraging my project management skills in my business. The minute I did, it took off, right?
Mm-hmm.
For those of you in the audience, what zone of genius is in your background that you have been ignoring, that you need to dust off and bring back, just like James and I did? So I love that part of your story, because it happens a lot, I think, to a lot of people. But also, what I want to encourage the audience with is, if you've been out there collecting social media follows person by person by person, and you're thinking followers is the way to get seen and heard and read, imagine a publication featuring you and you getting a flood of not just followers and people, but like the perfect people that you've been looking for all at once. I mean, what an amazing concept. And clearly it worked in your business. It catapulted things rapidly.
It's funny, as you were talking about, like, not leveraging skill sets and talents that we've had in prior careers. Like, I did it with my background in journalism, but also with my work, I was working in marketing. And it's so interesting how I can work for this corporation. And I mean, in 7 years there, we must have procured, I don't know, $250 million with a B dollars worth of projects. And then I go to build my little photo business. I'm like, well, I don't know where to start and I don't know what to do. But ultimately, when I talk to so many entrepreneurs, I hear the same things. I hear I'm bad at sales and I'm bad at marketing. Okay. But yet we're not bad at talking. We're not bad at introducing ourselves. We're not bad at communicating. But when we put this certain lens on it and call it marketing, or we call it sales, all of a sudden it becomes hard to see clearly. Mm-hmm. It becomes, it has a higher perception of difficulty.
Yeah.
When really the best marketing, the best sales is building trust and building relationships. That's it. Building trust and building relationships. And if you can build trust and you can build relationships, you are an excellent marketer. If you can build trust and you can build relationships, you are an excellent salesperson. I don't think we're acknowledging that enough. We focus on the funnels and the lead magnets and the onboarding. All great. Use them all.
Yeah.
Build trust, build relationships, and you're going to sell yourself.
Which is so smart. And getting published is such a great way to do that, because whenever you get published, right, they pick a topic that they're going to feature you for, or they write some sort of article about you or share some information about you. And all of that builds some trust. It builds some authority, right? Builds some expertise in front of a massive audience.
Right? So when I like to think about earned media, first, I want to hit two misconceptions about earned media, because especially getting published, and I'll use magazines. Mm-hmm. The two biggest misconceptions I see is, number one, that you have to be a celebrity, because we're just used to seeing celebrities in magazines. And the reality is okay. So to use the aforementioned example of the magazine covers I've shot, out of 600 covers, maybe 60 were someone I would consider of a celebrity status. Maybe. That means over 90% were individuals who had something of value, a story, a hook, an angle, something that was important enough for that publication to say, we want this within our publication. Now, that's just the cover alone. That's one page. I've shot thousands, if not tens of thousands, of interior features. And there, the ratio I'm looking at, like a 99-1 of non-celebrity to celebrity, respectively. So one, it's not just for celebrities. Number two is that you have to do something really big. And once you do something really big, the magazine outlets are going to notice you and they'll come to you. They're not looking. They're too busy. They're too overwhelmed with the work that they're doing, because they got jobs. They have deadlines. All the things that you have, they have too. Okay. Editors and podcast hosts and producers.
They're people just like us.
They're people just like us. They're really busy. They're not looking at what you're doing. So you got to go to them and let them know what you're doing and why it's applicable. So when we put those two misconceptions to the side, now we can talk about why we want to earn media. What are the goals? And you hit a few of them, but I think there's three. The first, and we'll just call it what it is, vanity. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are certain media outlets that I would love to work with and love to be featured with that would do absolutely nothing for my career. It would just be cool as hell. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you acknowledge That's why. Okay.
And that's okay.
Number two, yeah, it's fine. Number two would be authority amplification. Authority amplification is publications and or news outlets that raise the clout and the trust and the resonance factor that you have with your audience. So when I say, I've been featured on CBS and ABC and Market Watch and Business Insider, if you have a certain worldview of those outlets in a positive connotation, your trust, your resonance in myself as a subject matter expert is going to grow. All right. The third would be lead generation. The goal of this specific outlet is to bring leads into your business, people who want to do business with you. Now, I do see some people get confused between the second two. So authority amplification, lead generation. There are going to be certain outlets that you target that will do more for authority amplification than lead generation and vice versa. And I'll give an example. Let's say you're a personal trainer. I work with lots in the health and fitness space. As a personal trainer, you only train people in person. This is just for this example. And you're in Poughkeepsie. First city that came to my mind. Okay. You land a feature in Women's Health magazine. That is a pinnacle of authority amplification. And you can use that logo from now to the end of your career as featured in Women's Health magazine. All right. That will amplify authority. That will help you close more sales. That will build trust. That will build resonance. That will attract individuals who know about you to want to pay more attention to you. Okay. But my question is, how many people in Poughkeepsie are reading Women's Health magazine that need a personal trainer right now? The number drops a lot. Right. Okay. Versus, let's say you land a feature, don't know if this publication exists, in the Poughkeepsie Journal, or you land on the local NBC affiliate in Poughkeepsie or the local CBS affiliate, and they interview you on their radio show or on their TV show. Well, now the viewers or the listeners or the readers of this media outlet, 100% of them are within your target demographic. Mm-hmm. So a large number of them could be leads for your business. Yes. So now you can see clearly the difference between just authority amplification and lead. Now, some do both.
Some do both. And I think a lot of our audience, we have a lot of coaches, mm-hmm. course creators, and network and affiliate marketers who are, building brands for themselves, where they can attract leads from anywhere on social media and it's all fair game.
Yeah.
So for them, those two things might live together.
Absolutely.
They might get both out of a publication.
Absolutely. And this brings up another, I would call it like the third misconception with an asterisk, that getting published means being in a printed magazine. Not necessarily. I mean, being in a printed magazine is great, but getting published could mean landing a podcast feature, landing a feature on the publication's website, a digital publication exclusively, an online media feature, a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
All it means when I talk about earned media is there's an outlet that has an audience that you want to approach. And they are featuring you on their platform, meaning you're getting in front of their audience. You are earning the way to get in front of their audience. And when you're in front of that audience, you offer a compelling reason for that audience to enter back into your ecosystem. That's how you generate leads. So like I'm writing a feature for a magazine right now, and they came back and said, our print issue is full. Would you want a feature on our website? I'm like, yes, please. Yeah. Absolutely. Because that website, to me, as someone who's trying to generate leads from this article, that web feature is worth more to me because it hyperlinks right back to my website, to my funnel, to my ecosystem. And I don't have to rely on individuals seeing a feature in a printed magazine, remembering me, and then looking me up later.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually more beneficial to you to get featured on their online publication than to be in their print.
100%. Helps my SEO, helps my inbound links, helps my lead generation.
Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. So I love that you covered a few of the misconceptions because, you don't have to be a celebrity. And as long as you have something really cool to talk about, you can be featured. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like the vast majority of people featured are not celebrities. Mm-hmm. And anyone watching this video right now, if they put their mind to it, they could go get featured. But we don't wait for the magazines to come to us. We have to go pitch to them why they should feature us, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Really, when it comes to pitching, it's one of four steps. that we look at when it comes to earned media. First step is researching the outlets. So to understand what outlets you want to target and why. Best way is ask yourself, what does my target audience consume? What magazines do they read? What newspapers do they read? What podcasts do they listen to? What websites do they visit? What YouTube channels do they watch? What Facebook groups are they a part of? What events do they attend? Speaking engagements is earned media. Okay, you're earning yourself in front of an audience. And when you make that list, now you have the list of who you're going to approach. Yeah. It's not that complicated, but you want to get a sense of what each of these outlets embodies. Like if it's a magazine, what do they feature? What are their articles? What are their common sections? Who works for the publication? Who writes for the publication? If it's a podcast, who's the host? How often do they publish? Do they even have guests? That'd be a question I would need answered if I'm going to pitch myself as a guest. If it's a local TV show, well, are there segments on the local show that I would qualify for? Okay, well, who's the local producer? And this is Google. This is not hard. It takes a little bit of time, but you can pull this information. This isn't difficult. You can go to Barnes and Noble or whatever bookstore and pull every magazine off the shelf and flip open and just make notes. Who's the editor in chief? And by the way, that's all you're looking for at a magazine's the editor in chief. For a podcast, who's the podcast host? For a TV show, who's that show's producer? Mm-hmm. You just start making these notes.
Where would you love to be seen, basically, and just make your wish list?
Yeah. I mean, if you want help and to pull a bigger list, hire a VA and just say, listen, like we do this for podcast tours, because podcasts, we can do a wider approach because there's so many versus magazines are more finite. And we'll say, okay, pull us 100 podcasts that are within these categories or subcategories. So we'll choose, like business and marketing, sales, entrepreneurship that have between 100 and 500 five-star reviews, are still publishing, and feature guests. And they'll pull us a list. Okay. Now I at least have a list, so you can systemize things if that helps, but this is just the research phase. Okay. Which, by the way, you do forever.
Right. You never stop. You should always have your fingers on the pulse of what you're looking to be featured in.
Yeah. I mean, we just have different lists, and you can do like a high-tech CRM version, or you can put it in an Excel spreadsheet. You can put it in a notebook for all intents and purposes, just as long as you have a list of this is who I am looking at, and this is why I'm looking at them, and this is who I need to contact to build a relationship with. Step 2 is the pitch. The pitch, this is where a lot of people get hung up because they think they have to pull together this 20-page dissertation of reinforcing and proving why that they are the right person to feature. No, listen, a pitch is just like 1 or 2 sentences. It's not complicated. This is who I am. This is what I do.
It's like you need something that hooks the person that you're reaching at that publication, where they go, ooh, dang, this sounds like a good one, right?
Literally just tell them why you want to be featured. That's it. And why I want to be featured. By the way, it's not my biggest goal. It's not my biggest dream. It's not, no. Why you want to be featured is why they should feature you for their audience. That's really what you're answering. Call it the so what factor. I'm a personal trainer. So what? Well, I specialize in working with moms. So what? Well, I have this way that helps moms get their abs back after their first baby. Okay. All right. So we you just kind of peel it apart, but literally the pitch. This is who I am. This is what I do. And number 3, which is most important, this is what I want to do for you. That's it. So if I'm pitching a podcast, Adrian, let's say you have a podcast, literally, hey, Adrian, my name is James Patrick. I'm an internationally published photographer. I want to be a guest on your show because I know you speak to so many entrepreneurs. And I want to talk about the power of earned media and how people can land earned media features. If this would be of interest to you, let me know. Boom.
I would absolutely reply to that and say, yes, please. I mean, that's why we're here, because right? I'm interested in that. Yeah.
It does not need to be complicated. So all you need to really do is think of things that you could provide, whether it's articles you can write, topics you can speak on, conversations that you can have, segments that you can host. It's this presentations that you can give from stage. What value are you giving to this media outlet, and why does that value matter to its audience?
Right. That's here's why my story would be an asset to your publication.
100%. That's it.
Okay.
That's a pitch. Now you can liven a pitch by attaching, if you design your own media kit or press page, and there's free templates of that on Canva, like you can find that stuff. That's easy stuff. You can attach that stuff. That's fine. But that's a pitch. That's it. Not complicated. Here's the catch though. 99% of your pitches will not get answered.
So you have to be ready for that and know that it don't take it personally. This is just how it works.
And the reason it's how it works is we're busy.
People are just busy.
That's it. Yeah. I run a podcast. I get pitches every day. I don't have time to read pitches every day.
Right.
Because I'm running multiple businesses. So every pitch I get, if I see it, goes into a folder. And when I'm ready to look for guests, I'll peek through the folder and see what pops out at me. That's about it. But what pops out at me is usually the pitches that people follow up. And that's the key. This is going to surprise people. 8 to 12 follow-ups
to get featured.
On average. 8 to 12. So every few weeks, you want to send a follow-up. Now, the biggest fear, like red flag that pops up is, well, what if I'm bothering them? You're not.
You're not.
You're not.
This is their job. It happens all the time. You're just one of many people in their inbox, and don't worry about it.
Their job is to find content.
Mm-hmm.
By following up, you're helping them find content. That's it. Now, if you send a pitch every day or every week, yeah, maybe you'd bother them. But every few weeks, not at all. Not even close.
Okay.
Not at all.
You're actually making their job easier.
Exactly.
For them. You're helping them.
Mm-hmm. So an effective follow-up does one of two things. I mean, you could send a follow-up that says, just making sure you got this. But to me, that feels a little passive aggressive because I'm like, yes, I got it. But now I feel guilty for not responding. So what I like to see in a follow-up and what I try to do in a follow-up is either add additional context to my pitch. So for example, let's go back to the example of me pitching to be on your show.
Yeah.
I could send a follow-up, say, hey, Adrian, just following up on this message. So I'm just responding to my own message. So you can see the message below in case you missed it. Did you know that earned media is one of the fastest and most effective ways to generate leads? In fact, CNBC just did a whole article about this. Here's a link to it. I think this would be really important for your show. So all I'm doing is I'm pointing at another outlet that I'm not even an affiliate with. I didn't give that interview. I'm just validating my idea. Or I could say, by the way, I just gave a very similar interview on this other podcast, and this show did so well. Or I just wrote a blog article that I think really edifies what we're trying to get across here. So you're adding context to the idea.
And you're providing additional social proof that other people also think this topic is great. You're not the 100%. Only one.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So adding context to your idea. Other way to follow up is to say, by the way, if that idea didn't work, here's another idea for you. So you're just throwing out another idea. And you just do this again and again and again and again. Every 3 or 4 weeks, another pitch, another idea, another follow-up, more context. Or it could just be, hey, just circling around because I got a copy of the last issue and I loved your letter from the editor. You know how like being a journalist is a thankless job. It's hard. It's constant deadlines. It's you're dealing with your publisher. You're dealing with late writers. It is very thankless. So when someone reaches out and says, "I really enjoyed something you did," that's like the sun breaks through the clouds, and that editor, that journalist just feels like, "Wow, thank you." Because even being a podcast host, it's like I'm sitting in my studio right now. I record podcasts, but if people don't tell me they listen to it, I could see the download numbers. But that doesn't mean anything. That's a number. But when people like are reposting my show or saying, "Oh, I love the joke that you made on that show," or "I heard that story that you told," I'm like, "Oh my goodness, you actually listen." I know thousands of people listen because I see the numbers, but the fact that someone says, "I listened to this and this impacted me," that resonates with me and catches my attention. So
instead of being one of the just a sea of people, all the numbers they pop. They grab your attention. They stop being just a number. They start being a real person in front of you. And it's like, now you have a moment of connection. Yeah.
So ultimately what this comes down to is it's not if you'll earn media, it's when. I've never, in 20 years, I've never had a client not earn a media feature. It's just, it's not that it's technically difficult because it's not. It is hard in that it takes emotional energy to send pitches and to follow up when you're not getting a response. That emotionally is not easy. And I can validate that. I had a client I was pursuing. This is maybe 10 years ago. And my idea was every month I'd send him a new postcard of my work as a photographer. So the first of every month I send him this beautiful postcard with a new photograph on the back. I'd do this really nice handwritten note about why I wanted to contribute to their publication. 9 months later, I've heard nothing. And I'm like, kind of like self-hating at this point. I'm like, well, maybe I'm too small of a fish to swim in that pond. And maybe I should just stick to my own realm. And, I'm reaching outside my means. I'm just not good enough for this big publication. So I'm on Instagram, and I happen to follow the photo editor, who's the person that all these postcards are going to. And she had posted a photo working late one night at her office. It was something like the caption was, late night deadlines. And I look and I noticed there's this big empty wall behind her, except for one thing on the wall. And it looked familiar. So I zoomed in, and it was one of the postcards I sent her, tacked to the wall behind her. So I immediately went to my notes and looked up to see how long ago I sent her that postcard.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was the first postcard I sent her back in January. We're in September. So she's had this postcard on her wall theoretically for 9 months, but I've heard nothing from her. Nothing.
It clearly made an impact to her. She stuck it in the middle of the wall.
Bingo. But in my mind, I wasn't good enough. I didn't have the right work. I need to stick to my own, stick in my own lane. But yet my work has been on her wall upwards of 9 months. And that's when that light bulb went off. I'm like, oh, she just doesn't need me yet. Keep pitching, keep following up. And it was a few months later, they ended up hiring me. I worked for them for years. But that's that reminder of, even if you're not hearing anything, which is the hardest thing, it's harder than hearing no. Even if you're not hearing anything, you still follow up. You're still getting in front of them. You're still, think of it like earning attention. You're trying to earn their attention. So when you get opportunities, then it's just delivery. And the people who deliver, who get more opportunities, are the people who over deliver. They turn things in early. They show up prepared. They show up with high energy. Like, one of the things I look at when we're shooting magazine campaigns is I watch to see how that individual who got booked for a project treats every single person on set.
Yeah.
Even just the intern or the assistant or, the makeup artist. Like,
that speaks to their character.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. Because we need to ask, did we make the right choice here? We're always, we question everything. And so when someone shows up and they over deliver, it validates why we gave that person a chance. So then, like, if I'm working for a magazine, I could go back to the editor of that magazine and be like, we did well here. We did right. We picked the right person, but they crushed it. And then everyone feels good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then
maybe there's a chance in the future that they would work with them again.
There's step 4. Stay in touch. Yep, right there. Because this is what happens. When someone earns a media feature, the hardest work was earning it. That is the hardest thing in it. They've now earned it. And so many who want that shotgun approach, they're running off to the next media outlet.
It's like, honor what you've just been given. Like,
you have an in. Yeah, you have an in. It's like, look at it this way. If it takes 8 to 12 points of contact before an editor notices your pitch, would it not make sense that the more you're featured on a podcast, the more you're featured in a magazine, the more you're featured on a TV news channel, the more that audience is going to notice you and want to take action on you and build? It works exponentially. I'm a guest on a podcast once, it generates leads for me. When that podcast has me back on a second time, the number of inbounds I get is like 2, 3, 4x to what the first podcast. Why? Because it's so rare that a show trusts me and trusts someone enough to have them on again. Same with the TV show. When I'm a regular guest on a TV show, it pays forward so much more. Same with the magazine. Like, hey, one magazine feature is great. If I had a column in a magazine, that's the pinnacle, where I'm in every single issue. That is what builds extreme trust with the audience of that publication. That's the goal, is to build trust. And once you've gotten in for the first time, you know what that publication or that podcast is like to work with. You know what's important to them. You know what they care about. You know what they need next. So you are in the best position out of anyone to pitch yourself again for what they need next, because you're in. You know everything. You got behind the scenes. And this is how we start to turn this into a cycle. And you can really start to generate lots of inbound leads because You're at the forefront of earning all these features with this publication again and again, because you've now become a trusted resource for them. And that ultimately is what all these media outlets is looking for, are trusted resources.
Right. So not only are you building a relationship with the publication, through that relationship, you're building a relationship with their audience.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. And it's like self-fulfilling then at that point.
Mm-hmm.
This is amazing. This is amazing. Now, so for those in the audience watching who maybe they've never been published before, maybe prior to this interview, it never occurred to them that they could get published. And they're like, wow, okay, I'm a tiny fish here in this big sea. Mm-hmm. What's the best way to get started for someone who's like just looking for their first thing? You know, like obviously not everyone in the world is going to run right to like Entrepreneur Magazine or, you know, Time Magazine or something. Like, what's the best place to start if you're just like, I think I'm going to do this for the first time and just see what happens?
Yeah. You know, what's so cool is like, I've had hundreds, if not more, land their first features. And once they realize the simplicity of the steps, and when I say simplicity, I'll go back and preface again, not emotional simplicity, like just physical simplicity. It's not hard to send this email. These are not hard things, but to see that kind of light bulb for them and that excitement, they realize, okay, now I'm going to go on to the next thing. It's really fueling. It really starts with the goals. Is the goal vanity? Is the goal authority amplification, or is the goal lead generation? Mm-hmm. And let's just say it's lead generation. Okay. Well, your audience, the leads you want to procure, what are they consuming? I mean, that's ultimately what you need to be doing first is, what are they reading? What are they watching? And you can look at it locally. You can look at it regionally, nationally, internationally. Mm-hmm. But what is it that they're consuming? What conferences are they attending? What groups are they a part of? And then literally, it is just introducing yourself to the decision maker of whatever those outlets are. If it's a magazine, it's an editor-in-chief. And their emails in the magazine, it's not hard to find. If it's a podcast, it's a podcast host. If it's a digital feature, it's a producer, or if it's a TV show, it's that segment producer. And just introducing yourself and saying, this is what I want to do for your outlet. So you might want to think of, let's say,
where would you love to show up?
Topics that you could speak to. That would be interesting. So let's unpack that. Like, what is a topic that's interesting to speak to? You mentioned hook, and I think that's the right word. You know, a hook could be a couple different things. It could be, but ultimately it's something that gives value to the target audience. Yeah. Okay. So like I could, two ways of saying the same hook would be how I grew a multiple six-figure business. Okay, great. Another hook could be college dropout to serial entrepreneur. Okay. The second one, the latter one, has a little bit more gravity to it. Mm-hmm. It has a little bit more punch to it. Now, by trade, most of the people tuning in are not copywriters. That's okay. That's not a big deal. I was lucky in that I worked as a journalist, so I had to write lots of headlines. That's a hook, by the way, is a headline. So a great way to see headlines that work or hooks that work are read the news. Pick up magazines. Look what's on the cover of a magazine. You have all these cover lines. Every one of those is a hook.
Yeah.
And when you can start to frame your story ideas as hooks, it takes that story idea and just gives it that little bit extra emphasis. But I'll put an asterisk next to say, you do not need to be a perfect copywriter before pitching. Do not think that you need to perfect your pitch and rewrite 100 times to get it perfect before you click send. Don't do that, because an imperfect pitch, a pitch that's not done well, will be infinitely more successful than the perfect pitch that was never sent.
Yes. Right. The answer can't be yes if you never ask the question. If you're sitting 100%. There trying to be sitting in perfection and never hitting send on that email. Yeah. And I know I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who they're just getting started and like they're launching their very first podcast. Mm-hmm. I can tell you for sure, like you could approach any new and emerging podcaster with an idea and they will take you right away because they're trying to figure out how to find speakers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, some of the bigger publications, they have so many people knocking on their door. They have to pick up the litter, but You can always find a newer podcaster or, kind of in that emerging range who is still looking for active speakers, and they'd probably be delighted to have you.
You brought up something that's like such a great key for so many who are looking to earn media. If you have collateral to trade, for example, let's say you want to be on my podcast and you say, listen, I too have a podcast and I would love to interview you on mine as well. Would you be open for a swap? Now you've really piqued my interest because I too want earned media and you've now offered me something of value in exchange. So now I just need to make sure that your topic is good for my audience. And ultimately that's what I care about. Like above all else, when people are pitching me to be on my show, is this topic going to help my audience? I don't care who the person is. I don't need to know who they are. I don't need a lot of credentials. That's why it's like, you don't need to send a whole bio because ultimately I don't care. Does the topic help my audience? All I care about. And if the answer is yes, now I'm paying attention. That's it.
Yeah.
I trust if you're pitching this topic, you know what you're talking about. Like, I'm just going to trust that. You don't need to validate it.
Right. Like if you know enough to pitch the topic, you know the topic well enough to speak to the topic.
There you go.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then I'll know right away. And then I won't air the episode. Okay, fine. But
right.
But the point is like, I'm not reading bios. I'm not reading this laundry list of accomplishments. All I'm reading is what is the topic and is this topic going to help my audience?
Yeah, exactly. If it's congruent, it's a go. Yeah, 100%. Oh, this is so inspiring. And I hope that the audience is realizing that you, the person watching this right now, you can go and get published. You can get featured in podcasts. You can get featured in magazines. You can do what James is telling us about, and there's nothing stopping you right now. And what would that do for your authority? What would that do for your influence? What would that do for your confidence? I mean, so much comes packaged into this now. So for those in the audience who are realizing like, of all the things I've learned about this week, this is the one I'm taking action on. I'm super excited about this, and they want to get started, but they're not sure how. I know you have a gift that could help the audience to get a great start if they're realizing this is their thing. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, we have a free guide and it's called Get Published and Get Featured, How to Get More Clients by Appearing in Magazines, Podcasts, and Television. And you can just go to the link that
there'll be a button.
Yep, we're providing right below, and you can grab that free guide. So this is 20 years of my work just in this free guide, just teaching you and we cover the steps on this, but just to give a little bit more nuance and give a little bit more depth into what each of the steps involves.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, James. What an abundant gift. We are so blessed to have it. And we're so glad that you were here with us today to just teach us all about this topic that is kind of new to a lot of us, and very exciting to think about that. Yeah, there's some vanity that comes along with it. That's okay. But yes, you can grow your authority and you can get a lot of leads with this particular strategy. So thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Impactful Entrepreneurs Show with Adrienne Hill, where we support coaches, course creators, and network and affiliate marketers to translate their big picture vision into actionable plans to build out their business efficiently. If you love our show, we invite you to visit buildalifebydesign.com to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover more helpful resources. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share. Thank you for listening.